Welcome, everybody. The first thing I'd like to ask is for everybody to rise for the national anthem, which will be sung by one of the university's wonderful groups, the Bare Necessities. And after, I ask you to please remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Janet Cooper Nelson. Thank you very much.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Some of us pray, some of us don't. Please, if you will, hold in your hearts all that's sacred. Keeper of the chronicles of earth, today we turn a human page. We converge in honor and gratitude. The blessing of these, the nearly completed, we hold close. Their dreams, their achievements, their vibrant souls, their resilient spirits, their insistent aspiration. All of this has imbued College Hill in this their season with color, warmth, animated vision, courage to prevail, even to shine, and to take up the architectural work of human dignity. Each student's passage tells the story anew. Each bears witness to curriculum conquered, friendships forged, to the love and support of family and teachers, and even to those who loved and wanted their good when it was hidden from their eyes. Today, we raise together the voice of Brunonian honor. We give thanks for these, your daughters and sons, for the privilege of their time together here on College Hill and with us. And we give a special thanks for the hope their generation, rising stars in a yearning sky, will need to enact. Bless and keep them. May they take to heart our deep affection and regard. May they find that their education has strengthened their capacity to build and to protect the ecology of the earth and of human justice. May they dance, not in denial, but with defiant hope, even adequate, to the music that affirms dignity and radiant beauty, the worth of all with whom they share life. So ever true, living lives of usefulness and reputation, these will surely be a blessing in the life of the world you love. so grace them. Amen. Please be seated.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maud Mandel. I'm Dean of the College, and I'm really exceptionally pleased to welcome you to Brown University's 27th Annual Mid-Year Completion Celebration. This is an occasion where we recognize the accomplishments of students who are expecting to complete their bachelor's degree this month. And so we fondly refer to you, as you know, as the class of 2016.5. Point fivers, as you are known colloquially, have paved your own way through Brown, whether due to a planned detour from your Brown journey, a transfer to campus midstream, or an unexpected bump in the road. You have, in many ways, become the poster children for the Brown experience, navigating your time on campus and away from campus on your own terms, and putting together an educational plan that reflected your particular needs and goals. These navigational skills will serve you well now that you're graduating. As I've learned myself over the years, it's often life's detours, the seemingly wrong or at least unexpected turns that end up opening up the most amazing new vistas. Put differently, in many ways, the detours that have taken you to this moment are anything but. They've shaped your Brown experience and made you who you are, preparing you for all that will come next on your journey. Our celebration today is meant to mark a milestone in that journey. Indeed, this event is not meant to replace, but rather to complement Brown's annual commencement, which will be held this year, as it always is, on Memorial Day weekend. Now, as many of you may know, but some may not, the students who are now completing degrees actually have not one, but 3 opportunities to celebrate your Brown undergraduate experience. Some of you walked in last year's commencement. We honor you again today. And if you are not yet tired from all that celebrating, you can return in May to be feted yet again at our official commencement celebration, which is also your official commencement from Brown. So the Point Fivers clearly have figured something out. To kick off the rest of today's celebration, I'd like to turn the floor over now to the first speaker who would like to commend you on your achievement, Brown's 19th president, President Christina Paxson. Thank you very much.
I am so pleased to welcome all of you here today to celebrate our students who have completed, or soon, a few final exams and papers away, completing their degree requirements at Brown. So to the family and friends of these students, thank you for coming. To the brilliant students who make up the extraordinary class of 16.5, this is a really special day for you. So congratulations. And it's just very appropriate that we gather here to mark everything that you've done at Brown, your extraordinary achievements, as well as your transition from being Brown students to being Brown alumni. Now, as you know, and as the dean just said, this ceremony doesn't replace our wonderfully joyous, boisterous, really tremendous spring commencement ceremony. Now, that ceremony is, and some of you know because you've been through it, is longer, I would say much, much longer than this one, and a little bit more formal. For example, I speak Latin, something that I will not attempt to do here today. You'll be spared that. Even if you marched in the ceremony last May, I hope to see you again this spring as you return to join our other graduates and our alumni. Now, as the dean of the college said, and I just want to reinforce it because I think it's important, the fact that Brown has a mid-year graduation ceremony and years like 16.5 that will stay on your reunion labels for the rest of your lives is just very, very typically Brown. Many schools would not have such a ceremony. They wouldn't like the fact that this had happened. Students in many places are supposed to start in September, and they are supposed to finish precisely 3 years and 9 months later. That's it. But at Brown, as you all know, we celebrate the fact that not everybody does things exactly the same way. We tell students when they arrive that they have the responsibility to shape their own educations. And for some students, the shape of that educational trajectory is straight. For others, the shape of that trajectory is not linear, but it winds around a little bit, and as a result, takes longer. For one of you here, and I won't point you out, that journey has taken 10 years. But however you did it, and however long it took, you were all to be congratulated for your outstanding accomplishments. Now, graduation ceremonies, the formal ones, are very much wrapped up in pomp and circumstance and tradition. And for that reason, even though they're wonderful, they do look pretty much the same from year to year. But the circumstances the graduates confront upon graduation change over time, depending on what's going on in the world. And these circumstances are really, for the most part, entirely outside of our control. But they do shape our lives, and they set our paths, sometimes in very unpredictable ways. My personal story is that I graduated from college. I hate to tell you the date, but it was in May of 1982. And any of you who have studied economic history at Brown knows that this was not a good year to graduate from college. The year 1982 was the height of what was called the Reagan recession. It was not long after President Reagan's election, and it was caused, at least in part, by the attempts of his administration to beat back inflation. The unemployment rate was over 10%. Hardly anyone was coming to campus to interview prospective graduates. So I remember sitting in this long line of seniors down a hallway, waiting for the privilege of interviewing with a financial services firm for a position in, quote, information systems, which I found out once I got into the room was a glorified name for data entry specialist. I couldn't bring myself to return for the second interview. Yes, I did get a call back. Even though I was very worried about repaying my student loans. And so I did what at the time seemed like a really logical thing. I went to graduate school. And I got a PhD in a subject that I loved, economics. So instead of suffering the consequences of a bad economy, I turned it around to study the economy. And as a result, I became an educator and a researcher, which for me has proven to be an incredibly engaging and challenging career. One that has let me do things that I believe matter an incredible amount to society. Taking part in the enterprise directly and indirectly of advancing discovery and preparing young people like you, for lives of meaning and purpose. So who would have thought that Ronald Reagan's fear of inflation would be something that I could thank for the privilege of being here today? It's quite ironic, really. Now, on the economic front, let's turn to the world that you're facing. I can tell you that you are fortunate to be completing your college education in 2016. A jobs report that came out just yesterday shows that the unemployment rate right now is incredibly low. It's only 4.6%. The unemployment rate for college graduates is under 2.3%. So if you don't have one yet, don't worry. You will find a job. There are a lot of them out there. You don't have to be a data entry specialist. The privilege conferred by a college degree in a time like this is simply extraordinary. Yet, the mood of this country is not what you would expect from the job reports, and it goes to show that economics are not everything. The Gallup organization conducts daily polls that track the moods and opinions of Americans. And while Americans are feeling buoyant about the economy, they are fearful about the future. much more so than is normally the case after a presidential election. A record high 77% of Americans perceive the nation as divided, and a small majority of Americans think that the country will become further divided in the coming years. I looked at a report just yesterday on the Southern Poverty Law Center, which tracked a very disturbing surge in hate crimes and bias-related incidents just after the election, with the largest increases motivated by anti-immigrant sentiment, followed by anti-Black, anti-Semitic, and anti-LGBTQ incidents. Now, this is division indeed, and division that is completely contrary to Brown's values, and I would say to human values. In addition, again, going back to the polling data, large majorities of Americans are concerned about the ability of the next administration to keep the country out of war, to improve the quality of the environment, or to improve race relations. Now, these things, global security, environmental sustainability, social justice, these are among the most important challenges of our times. Now, I'm not saying this to make you feel despondent or anxious about the future, truly, far from it. But I do want you to leave Brown, and here I am speaking to our graduating students, with a very, very clear-eyed understanding of the challenges that we face. And I want you, maybe in the next few weeks while you're studying for finals, to think seriously about how graduating into this world right now will affect your life trajectory. And the point here is that while you can't control the circumstances of the world, you have a lot of choice here. You enter your post-graduation world incredibly empowered. You may not realize that yet, fully realize that yet, but you have the knowledge and the experiences and the connections that a degree from a university like Brown confers. And you have the privilege of choosing how to use that power to make change that might help to heal a divided world or protect an imperiled planet. Now, I know from my time with you, and many of you have been with me really since I came to Brown, if not a little bit longer, that Brown students are not timid about affecting change. In grappling with several difficult issues over the past 4 years or so, you observed, joined, or perhaps led a campus protest or 2, or 4, or maybe 9. There were so many to choose from. But seriously, making change is not all about protest, although there's certainly a scope for that, and I mean that very seriously. But it's also about knowing how to collaborate with people with backgrounds and experiences different from yourself. It's about using the skills of analysis and insight to uncover truth. It's about developing the moral scaffolding that lets you discern what's right. And it's about using the talents of persuasion and leadership, real leadership, to bring people together to work towards common goals. Now, these are exactly the abilities that I trust you're taking away from Brown. I sincerely hope you are, and I think most of you are. And I encourage you to apply these abilities, each in your own unique, very distinctive, very Brown ways, as teachers or scientists or writers or entrepreneurs, artists, activists, whatever you choose, to address the very distinctive challenges that the world faces right now at the close of 2016. And I'm fully confident that you'll do this with thoughtfulness and with integrity and creativity, and that as a result, you will create satisfying lives of meaning and purpose. So I'm looking forward to tracking your progress. I'm looking forward to seeing you here when you're back on campus. You have so much to give back to Brown students of the future. I want you to stay connected in as many ways as possible. And finally, I just want to thank you for choosing to spend such an important time of your life at Brown University. Congratulations and good luck. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to turn now to the next part of our program where we will hear from two of your graduating peers who will share with us different perspectives on their Brown education. Our first speaker is Sophia Bonifant. Sophia is a biology concentrator from Taunton, Massachusetts. She's actively involved in the Brown chapter of Alpha Chi Omega, serving as Vice President of Chapter Relations and Standards, and has served as a resident peer leader for the past 4 years. A pre-med student, she also serves as a TA for the introductory biology course and works as an intern with the Bradley Hasbro Children's Research Center. After Brown, she plans to work for a couple of years before entering medical school. Please welcome Sophia.
The idea of being the architects of our own education is what entices most of us to come to Brown. We love the ability to decide what we want to learn and how we can create our own set of courses. But I wonder how often our academic blueprints follow the original guidelines. I'm sure there are students whose academic plans never faltered, but many of us know all too well the stories of those whose schedules were significantly altered by life and circumstance. It seems that not everything goes according to plan. My unplanned personal leave certainly challenged my original college plan, and my parents too. I wanted to graduate in 4 years, take a gap year, and matriculate to medical school in the fall of 2017. Coming into Brown, I thought I had my life figured out. But of course, things didn't go according to plan during my first couple of years here. When we arrived at Brown, we became immersed in this society that places tremendous value on overexertion and overcommitment. I struggled to find the balance between doing my absolute best and taking care of myself. I came into Brown as an eager pre-medical student, but my sense of purpose gradually got lost in the blur of classes, clubs, and requirements. Everything I did became part of a routine of things I had to do. I didn't feel like I was doing the activities I wanted to do. One time, I was waiting excitedly in the Ratty Omelet line, and I heard someone at a nearby table bragging to their friend about the amount of coffee they had already had that morning as they downed their 4th cup. And their friend just replied with how little sleep they had gotten the night before. The pre-med student in me thought, well, that doesn't seem very healthy. But then I thought to myself, why? I've worked as a residential peer leader for the past 4 years, and the number of students who have come to me with the exact same difficulty is extraordinary. We seem to lose our purpose in this fast-paced life. Sometimes we forget why we're here or what we're doing. Some of us get overwhelmed with the everyday life of coffee, class, a cappella, e-board meetings, study, and sleep if you manage to get it. I took a leave away from Brown, and it completely rearranged my academic plans. But this gave me the opportunity to step back and gain a new perspective on my Brown experience. Now, I may not have found the absolute meaning of life, but I did find some meaning for my own life. Away from Brown, I learned what I prioritize in my life and what is important to me. For example, when I stepped back, I found myself spending most of my time babysitting for family and friends, and I realized that I really liked working with children. Maybe it was watching the Pixar movie Frozen 3 times a day, every single day, or perhaps I relished in the challenge of putting a 2-year-old down for a nap, which, let me tell you, is quite the feat. I already knew that I wanted to be a physician, but after spending so much time with these kids, I learned that I might enjoy being a pediatrician. When I came back to Brown, I immediately started volunteering with preschoolers, teaching them health lessons once a week, and I was offered an internship affiliated with Hasbro Children's Hospital. I found a new sense of motivation and passion for the work I was doing. Being away from Brown for 6 months, I remembered why I chose Brown as my place of learning, why I study biology, and why I still want to go to medical school even after taking those infamously hard pre-med requirements. It was this newfound knowledge that completely transformed my remaining time at Brown. Though my experience is unique, as .5ers, most of our academic paths are considered non-traditional. We've foregone the typical route of graduating in 4 years. Some of us may be graduating early, and many of us transferred or took time off and are graduating a bit later. Regardless of the circumstance, we all understand that not all things go according to plan. But I don't think that's a bad thing at all. In whatever path brought us here today, we were all presented with various opportunities for growth. As Robert Frost might say, we took the path less traveled, and it's the lessons we've learned on our journeys that will shape our lives after Brown. When I decided to take time off, I initially thought I had failed, that I must have done something wrong. But then I read a book given to me by my mentor before I left, Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. This book taught me about the experiences of shame, vulnerability, falling flat on your face, and getting back up again. It takes its name from the famous quote by Teddy Roosevelt, a quote that gave me strength and courage when I thought I had fallen. He says, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who comes short again and again, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly." We've dared greatly these past few years, and we will continue to dare greatly after today. We must recognize the importance of what we've done at Brown, and I'm certain that we have the passion and ambition to go forth as new Brown alumni. Today, I'm proud to call myself an alum, a part of the class of 2016.5. Regardless of life throwing unexpected twists and turns into the blueprints of our lives, I am confident in this new class of Brown alumni. We will continue going forth. We will become the architects of our future endeavors, and we will always dare greatly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sophia. Our next speaker is Richard Flores. Richard is a proud first-generation student from East Los Angeles, California. I see the celebrations in full gear now. He is double concentrating in literary arts and psychology and hopes to pursue a career writing comic books. Richard has been a member of the Brown Motion Pictures since he arrived on campus, and he recently finished directing his second short film, Facunda, which will be premiering at the Avon Cinema tomorrow. Very exciting, tomorrow night. Richard spent his semester away from Brown working in the entertainment industry as a film and television development intern for MTV and Perfect Storm Entertainment. This summer, he was at DC Comics, where he developed and pitched a speculative comic book series about a Latino superhero that explored themes of identity, discrimination, and solidarity. Please welcome Richard Flores.
Who am I? This is a question that I've asked myself throughout my time at Brown. Being a Latino and an artist are the only two identities I've ever known. Unfortunately, these two identities have also clashed with one another throughout my time on campus. Coming from a predominantly Hispanic community, I was thrilled at the idea that Brown has a strong group of Latinx students who love and support one another. My real reservations came from wondering whether I would be able to pursue what I really love, film and acting. I remember being intimidated when I was initially exposed to a community of white artists. Many of them came from privileged backgrounds and were already equipped with the skills necessary to craft beautiful pieces of art. I didn't have any of that. It was my hunger to create and stubbornness to walk away that pushed me to work extra hard just to be recognized as an okay artist. However, I realized that there was an unfortunate trade-off in this pursuit. I observed that the closer I got to the artists on campus, the more I saw myself moving away from my Latino identity. Rather than participate at Latinx events to help build a strong base of solidarity, I felt compelled to fully commit myself to my artistic endeavors. I assumed that if everyone else was pouring their blood and sweat into their own projects, then I should as well. The competitive atmosphere to succeed in this field made it very easy to completely lose myself in this world. Even after dedicating my time to this love and tirelessly proving my worth, I was still navigating through the film and theater community with the haunting sensation that I truly didn't belong because of that other identity. I would ask myself, can there be a balance between these two worlds? Do I have to choose between the two? If so, which one's more important? After all, my love of art gave me the tenacity to take a leave right before my final semester at Brown in order to follow my dreams within the entertainment industry. When I returned home to East LA, I reassessed these lingering questions about my identity. I began to recognize so much that I had lost about myself after reconnecting with my family. My parents said that the struggle to be a successful Latinx in this world is much greater than just fitting into cliques on campus. They said that my attitude would be doing a disservice to me, to the school, to other Latinx students who aspire to pursue the arts, and most importantly, it would be doing a disservice to everything my parents fought for as they left their lives behind in Mexico. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here with us today. But the last thing they told me was that if I want to pursue the arts, then I have the obligation to tell stories about our people. During my time at DC Comics, I was given the wonderful opportunity to write and develop a speculative comic book series about any character within their universe. I thought this was the perfect venue in which I can fully explore my personal battles with my identity by working on a character with a very similar dilemma. Jaime Reyes, also known as the Blue Beetle, is both a Latino and a superhero. However, prior to tackling on this character, I noticed that Jaime didn't really embrace his Hispanic roots within the comics. I thought Jaime was only a Latino by name, and ever since becoming a superhero, he's forgotten what it means to live with this identity. I saw so much of myself within this character, and because of this, I immediately wanted to revitalize him in order to ensure the authenticity of being a Latino in our current day. During the development process, I battled against other people's notions about writing a character of color. Some believe that it's best not to have POC heroes fully acknowledge their cultural identity in order for their stories to be universally appealing to readers. However, I completely disagreed. I thought, well, if Superman can embrace his Kryptonian heritage, then let's have Jaime embrace his cultural identity. The same way that Batman writers use Gotham City as a character, then let's use his hometown of El Paso, Texas, to shape his overall story. I realized that what makes his story and character so beautiful is the many facets of his identity. Also, what I love about comics is the possibility to discuss real-world issues in an exciting and digestible way for younger readers. Blue Beetle, American Sueño, as I called it, has moments of exhilarating action, but at its core, it was a coming-of-age superhero epic that was most importantly about Jaime gaining a newfound sense of life by finally accepting both of his identities. He is not just a superhero, but a Latino superhero, The Latino superhero that I wished I had growing up, and the one that is currently giving me the hope that it is possible to embrace everything about myself. When given extraordinary power and privilege like being a student at an Ivy League institution, or a superhero like Blue Beetle, it can be very easy to forget where you come from. Today is our day to reflect upon our own stories and upon everything that makes us who we are. As we move forward to our next epic adventure, never forget your home. And never forget that we are more than just engineers, philosophers, entrepreneurs, and writers. Today, I can proudly say to you that I am a nerdy, first-generation Latino artist from East Los Angeles. Thank you. And may the force be with you.
Thank you, Richard. It is customary to have a Brown faculty member speak at this ceremony, and this year we are extremely fortunate to have Daniel Kim, who is an associate professor and director of undergraduate studies in the Department of English. He also has an appointment in American Studies and Ethnic Studies, and he has been teaching courses in American, Asian American, and African American literature at Brown since 1997. His research interests include intersectional approaches to race, gender, and sexuality in the Cold War, and he currently serves on the Brown University Community Council and has in the past served on the College Curriculum Council as well. He also served on the search committee that helped hire Dean Shannon O'Neill, who organized today's event. So it's a happy bringing together of several people today. Thank you, and welcome, Professor Kim.
How are you guys doing? This is your day. So if you haven't figured out by now, Brown has what I think is an admirable tradition of not having a famous speaker or celebrity deliver the commencement address. Instead, as is obvious, it's a few of the graduating seniors themselves who speak during the ceremony to their peers, their families, and loved ones. And I've always kind of wondered if the idea here was that even if they're not famous now, they will be famous someday. And another more modest tradition, and maybe it's just an expectation, is that when an English professor takes part in a ceremony like this, that they'll be reading an appropriate extract from a famous piece of literature, something to help formally issue these fledglings from their collegiate nest. So I've been feeling a bit of pressure myself the last few weeks to come up with something appropriate. And luckily, a few weeks ago in one of my classes, I came across a poem by the Palestinian-American poet Naomi Shihab Nye, and it's called Famous. And I'd just like to read that to you today. But before I do, I should, as an English professor, give you a definition of the word famous as it comes from the Oxford English Dictionary. It tells us this, there's not going to be a test or anything, so don't worry. It tells us that famous means, quote, celebrated in fame or public report, much talked about, renowned. And colloquially, famous can also serve, quote, as an emphatic expression of approval. Excellent, grand, magnificent, splendid, capital. It's the Oxford English Dictionary. Now, obviously, the second meaning of famous can already apply to all of you, seniors, because you are about to ascend the pinnacle of your college career. The rest of us here can indeed affirm that you are famous as an excellent, grand, magnificent, splendid, and capital. I imagine that there's a good chance that others of you, and not just our speakers, might go on to be famous as well, and in that first sense, but again, no pressure, right? Actually, and before I do read the poem, I do want to say a few words about pressure, because I've had lunch with some of the point fivers, and and what we heard today, I think, speaks to some of this. I've been teaching here since 1997, and when I talk to friends at other schools who teach at schools with more traditional curriculum, they sort of tease me about teaching at that hippie Ivy League school. And you know, if you think about why they might say things like that, it has something to do with the fact that there's no core curriculum here. that there are no plus or minus grades, that students take a bunch of classes, pass, fail, and that there are no majors here but concentrations, and I'm sure you could add to this list yourselves. But what I end up explaining to them, and what came somewhat as a surprise to me as I started teaching here, is how much pressure the students actually put on themselves here because of the freedom that the new curriculum allows, and of what I think of as a culture of improvisational ambition that flourishes here. I become reminded of this at the start of every semester during shopping period, during the frenzy of shopping period, as students become obsessed with choosing and indeed curating the 4 most amazing, life-changing courses possible. And this obsession to make the very most of the time they have here, to take advantage of every possible opportunity. This impulse, however powerfully it can motor people to do some truly amazing things, can also have a downside. It can take shape as a relentless and even punitive engine of self-scrutiny. And when I see the darker aspect of this pressure to be amazing that students put on themselves, it's something I identify with as well. It's an impulse I know very well. It's helped me do some things in my life and career that I'm proud of, but it's also gotten me into a bit of trouble. For one thing, it helped fuel some addictive tendencies in me that quite nearly brought me down. Nye's poem, as you'll see, and I will eventually get to the poem, has something to say about what I've been talking about. Before I get to it, I want to say a word about a former student of mine who came back to visit Brown last spring to speak to some current students. This alum, who I'm just going to call him Joel, was an ethnic studies concentrator, and he came to campus to reflect on his time here and his life after with some current students. Since graduation, Joel has been working as a high school teacher, and it's a job that he's passionate about and clearly really, really good at. When students here asked him what he would have done differently during college, knowing what he knows now, he said he wished that he hadn't tried to do everything all the time. The pressure to do so made him do well at Brown and made him a great teacher, but also led him to nearly walk away from a career he was passionate about. He got burned out. He did end up resuming his job after taking a bit of time off, but the message he carried to the students he talked to was, you don't always have to do everything all the time. Anyway, when Dean Mandel asked me over the summer to say something to you all today, Joel's words were the first thing that popped into my mind, and I just wanted to pass along on this auspicious day a message from a fellow Brunonian. So now the poem. And all I'll say before I read it to you is that I think its message... No, I'm seriously going to read it to you now. I am going to read it to you. All I'll say before I read it... No, there's like 2 sentences, okay? All I'll say before I read it to you is that I think its message nestles quite nicely with Joel's. This impulse to always do everything all the time might lead us to think that we aren't successful if we don't become famous, if we don't become celebrated in fame or public report, much talked about, renowned. Nye's poem asks us instead to imagine ourselves reaching for a quieter, gentler, more intimate, and more relational kind of famous, one that can nestle more easily in our day-to-day lives. So here it is, the poem, Famous by Naomi Shihab Nye. The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anybody said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds watching from the birdhouse. The tear is famous briefly to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth, more famous than the dress shoe, which is famous only to floors. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it, and not at all famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets, sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous, or a buttonhole, not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for those wonderful words. So now we're coming to the part of the program you came here to witness, which is the presentation of the students who will be completing their degrees this month. Before we do that, I want to just take one moment to do something I meant to do at the beginning and forgot to do, which is to ask all of us to thank the many guests and visitors who came to cheer on our students today. So if everyone could just thank parents, friends, family, and supporters for turning out. Thank you so much. We know how much this day means to the students who are completing and to their families and friends and loved ones, and it's really wonderful to have so many folks here supporting them. Okay, so now we're really going to do this. So I'm going to be helped in this process by Deans Shannon O'Neill and Christopher Dennis, so if I could ask them to come up. And as we announce names, we're going to ask the student to come forward to receive a small memento of Brown. I'm going to ask folks to hold your applause until the last student has crossed the stage, so just to get it out of your system, and we'll do it again at the end, but to get it out of your system, how about a big round of applause now for all the graduating students? Thank you. Okay, good. Thanks. That was good. Now you have to outdo that at the end, okay? So just hold your applause now until we get through the group. So without further ado, I will turn it over.
Sophia Lynn Bonifant. Richard Flores. Elena Egan Bengochea. Vala Otterod. Noemi Chavez Velasquez. Elizabeth Hope McDougall. Sophia Kanjili Dalal. Kenneth William Volkman. Henry Sydenham Christ. Daniel Patrick McCormick. Sang Min Lim. Ryan Heidner Green. Jesse Arnold Giannini. Phoebe Gallo. Katrina Nicole Phillips. Taylor Gordon Casey. Bianca Elise Salvador Ayales. Sofia Karyanova. Vivian Hahn. Carlos Antonio Salinas Manzano. Andrew Lee Gainham. Michael Andrew Zaski. Aimee Daniela Cicero. Allison Taylor Woodworth. Dominique Mirpuri. Otis Benson Booz. Johanna DeBoer. William Ransom Cross. Benjamin Thomas Orff. Zohib Siddiq. David Cohen. Floripa Ogin. Camille Lynn Johnson. Lily Catherine Gordon. Joseph Aaron Stein. Javier Alberto Sandoval. Emma Athena Murray. Nicholas Jason Bauer. Priya Patel. Saba Shavidi. Jonathan Ralph Franco. Evelina Sasser Bond. Morgan T. Patrick. Stephen James McShane. Ryan Christopher Gorley. Devani Turpin Haruta. Melissa Leonora Dembski Sullivan. Ye Bin So. Robert James Clapper. Matteo Mobilio. Elliot Gregory Green. Mindy Zhou. Zhu Zhang. Zemplin Pataki. Sophia Ashai.
Well, since you all followed my instructions so very clearly, I now invite you to break your record and cheer out the class of 2016.5. Well done. Thank you. Excellently done. A+. So I will close first with my own hearty congratulations to the class of 2016.5. And before we conclude, I do want to also take a moment to thank our musicians, Ethan Blake, Ben Spector, and the Bare Necessities. I have to say that was my favorite processional I've ever heard, so I really loved that. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Deans Shannon O'Neill and Carol Cohen, as well as Wendy Sheridan from the Office of the Dean of the College, along with the many deans who turned out today to help make today's ceremony so lovely for everyone. So thank you very much for all the work that went into this. And now, although we do many things with the Point Fivers to buck tradition, we will end in the traditional way with the singing of the Brown alma mater. And then after the alma mater, the students will process out of the hall. We do ask everyone to remain standing until the recessional is complete. I'm sorry, no, it says standing, seated. Okay, so I'll do what you want, but, and then, you're the president, we can do what you want. And then afterwards, we invite to meet your students in Sales Hall for a reception immediately following this ceremony. Sales is to your left when you leave this building. But now, please let us all rise to sing the alma mater.
Alma mater, we hail thee with joyful devotion, and bring to thine altar our offering of praise. Our hearts swell within us with joyful emotion, as the name of Old Brown in loud chorus we raise. The happiest moments of youth's fleeting hours we pass 'neath the shade of these time-honored walls, and sorrows as transient as April's brief showers have clouded our life in Brunonius Hall.